The greatest political speech I've ever heard was March 18th, 2008. Barack Obama responding to all the criticism about racism and stuff that had entered his campaign. And I really felt like he was going down. But he gave this speech, and listen, look it up and listen to it yourself. It was incredible. His pastor, Jeremiah Wright, was the problem. He had said some awful things about Americans, racism, whites. That was just awful. So he talked about that, and he concluded it by applying it to us. And here's what he said, and I quote, "Let's not make the same mistake that Reverend Wright made in his offensive sermons about America." This is the key: to simplify, stereotype, and amplify the negative to the point that it distorts reality. That is exactly what is going on right now across the world with all these protests about the George Floyd murder in Minneapolis. And you know what? As I watch this, I'm hammered again about white privilege. Here's what he said about that in his speech. And I quote again, "Most white Americans don't feel they have been privileged by their race," end quote. Listen, that's me. I know what it's like to walk into a bank and be turned down for a loan that I desperately needed. And I may not know about how many times, my black brother gets stopped by the police. I may not experience the looks when I go into certain retail stores. But listen, I know the struggle to survive economically. I know the challenge that it takes to grow a family and just to find some bit of success in this life. And listen, I recognize, I fully believe that slavery, the Jim Crow laws, Ku Klux Klan, go through the rest. It has held the black race back. And so you say you want discussions and conversation, I am all in with you on that. But let me be clear. If all you want to do is to have a bunch of white people kneel down on a sidewalk somewhere and confess their sins to some black organization, then I'm out. Let's look at the whole picture and what we can do together. Let's bring in issues like, for instance, the weekend that he was killed, that weekend in Chicago. 84 shootings, 24 dead. Most of that black on black crime. 500 babies aborted by black mothers in Chicago that week. I mean, there's a lot to discuss. And speaking of disparities, people talk about, the population of the African Americans is 13% in America, yet it's a greater percentage of blacks in prison, and we know that. How about this one? 36% of all abortions are black mothers. So yeah, we have some things to talk about. Let me conclude this with a true conservative comment by Barack, where he says this: "We must take full responsibility for our own lives by demanding more from our fathers, spending more time with our children, reading to them, teaching them that while they may face challenges and discrimination in their own lives, they must never succumb to despair or cynicism. They must always believe that they can write their own destiny." End quote.